Ready to hit the pause button on your parenting fails? Ready to feel better about your parenting? Welcome to Parenting Pause, the podcast, where all of you is welcome. Enjoy our new format, offering you weekly inspirations to support you in being the parent you want to be. I'm Leslie Potter, the founder of the Pure Joy Way, a mother, a parent coach, and a fellow traveler on this journey to wake up in our parenting. And I believe together we can make this a better world for ourselves and our kiddo. Hello, lovies. In my early parenting, I had this crazy idea, and you might have it too, that if I was just more perfect, and if I could just get my daughter to be more perfect, and then we could just fix everything, or I could fix everything, then we were going to be okay, and that our life was going to be happy, right? And I found that that wasn't actually true. What was happening is that I was running away from the happiness of the moment, that present moment of happiness, because I was always trying to be more perfect. I was always trying to change something or fix something, right? I started really noticing it, especially when I was take my daughter to the park and we were hanging out and we were just being, I was watching, but I kind of had these glasses on. I put through these glasses and I looked through these lens of comparing my child. Right? I kept looking at who she wasn't and what she wasn't doing and maybe what we didn't have, or I didn't have the nice stroller that somebody else had, or my daughter didn't have as much speech as someone else's or as many words. And I was always wondering, like what was going to happen. And I wasn't in the moment, right? I was looking through this lens instead of really sitting down in the blessed joy of that I was a mama, right? I had a hard time becoming a mama. I didn't become a mama until I was 44. I had to travel to China as a single mom to adopt my daughter. And I was not sitting down in that joy and that happiness, right? So I started noticing that when I was willing to let go, and it doesn't happen still all the time, but I would take little moments in the park, and you might try this too, where I would just surrender my, future thinking, and I would put on a different lens, different glasses, right? And instead of seeing through who she was not or who I was not, I started seeing who we were. And I stopped putting my happiness off into the future. I had that illusion that if I could do it perfect, right, then everything would be good. But I started seeing through the lens of everything was perfect in that moment. And this took time for me. It still is a practice for me because I think in our parenting, I know for me, and you might experience this too, we can be very outcome focused because of all the competition, because of all the conditioning. So we leave that moment because I think we get so afraid that we're going to get behind or our kids are going to get behind. I'll never forget one day one mama asked me, she looked at me, she goes, "Is your daughter doing anything yet?" This was in school because her daughter was, in athletics and she was in theater and she was in music. And my daughter was not. My daughter was a present moment kid. She was just doing what she was doing. And I'll never forget the big grip in my being when she said that. And so I had to really work with myself to relax and realize there was nowhere to get. This is probably the greatest gift that I've given myself and given my daughter, is to, when I get in that place, just to relax back and notice back who my daughter is and what she is giving me in that moment. So I had an example, that one night she just sends me a little message and asked me if I wanted to play this little Scrabble game with her. And just that, was so sweet. It was like she sent me the game and we were passing words back and forth in the same house, in the same, just across the room. But again, taking in those moments when it's so precious, or when she brought me last night some ice cream, right? I didn't ask for that. It was just a precious moment, and noticing who my daughter is instead of focusing she didn't take the recycle out, or she didn't do this, or she didn't do that. And this one's hard because we're really tend to focus. I mean, you walk into your kid's room and what's the first thing that you see? Most of us see the mess. We have this negativity bias. So if you walk into your kid's room this week, you are going to see the mess, but see what it's like not to comment on the mess and to comment on something beautiful about your child, right? Just as a practice, because in this work, we're always seeking this balance between the positive and the negative. We're not going positive, we're not going negative. We're seeking that balance in between. And the more we can find that balance, the more love we can feel, and we can show up in that present moment. All right, lovies, take care. On October 2nd, listen into my interview on healthy boundaries and big feelings with Jason and Cecilia Hilke at the Happily Family Fall Conference. I'll be joined by other amazing parenting experts, Dr. Dan Siegel, Dr. Kristen Neff, Dr. Ross Green, and many more. You can find the link to register in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Pause. Make sure to check out the free foundational course to learn the Safe Seat process at purejoyparenting.com.